everyone, I am Nisbu Usman, a graduate student at Eastern Michigan University. I am doing my master's on applied econometrics. And the part of my study, it is independent study under the guidance of the head of our department, Mehmet Yaya. And we decided to study and to learn a little bit about the gender pay gap in banking sphere and to study to learn the impact of recession to this gender pay gap. Originally, I am from Tajikistan, and in Tajikistan, according to the law, we have the same rights and responsibilities between men and women. According to the constitution, we are equal, but unfortunately, in practice, you can see some differences. And I think might be here in United States where a lot of freedom, whereas human rights are in a very high level protected. I think that there is no any gap, any discrimination, and we decided to learn this issue, and I devote my independent study, my time to studying this issue. So please enjoy my presentation on gender pay gap in banking sphere. Has a recession changed the obvious? In a highly competitive global economy, employee diversity offers a proven route to increase innovation and organizational performance. While publicans and employers recognize that gender should be no barrier to career progressions, women are still underrepresented at all levels of company. Even we have Equal Pay Act in United States in 1933, and we have Sustainable Development Goals, one of which devoted to provide gender equality, to fight with gender equality. Still in United States, we have a lot of gap between men and women pay. Here I provide some research on the existed gaps, and I identified that the biggest gap is in financial sphere. So I decided to study this and identify the reasons and results and findings, outcomes on this issue. To do this, I use data from American Community Survey. I use more than 1 million observation, and the analyzing period is from 2001 to 2017. So while analyzing, I identified that banking sphere in United States, male-dominating sphere, because 64% of employers in my sample, which was randomly chosen, are men. So demographical analysis shows that most of representatives of my sample are married. During analyzing of my data, I use demographic data, economic data, and social data, and also I create some my data of interest. So I use their marital status, their citizenship, age, race, experience, wage. All these demographic data will impact to the salary, to the gap in salary, in wages. And also another side of coin, another impact to the wage is by their economical data. It is experience, education, and their occupation, which also will impact to the gender pay gap. So I create my own variables of interest. It is recession. It would be one if the year is after recession, is more than 2009, and I create female. It is one when it is female and 0 when it is male, and interaction female to recession, which will show the impact of recession in gender pay gap after recession for female representatives. So it is the interaction of female and recession. I decided to analyze first my baseline model where we have no control variables. My baseline model is depend on female recession and my interaction variable which I created, and there is no personal controls for my baseline model. When I run my baseline model, I identify that the gap between male and female is 56%. It is just baseline, there is no any control variables, any other factors like demographic and economical factors. So I decided to expand my regression and run second model with personal control variables. My personal control variables are demographical and economical variables which will show the marital status, the citizenship, age, experience, education, occupation, the states where they live, and so on. So my second model shows that the difference between the wages between female and male are 36%. And it means that 20% the gap was shrink due to the my control variables. It is race, which has also impact to the gender pay gap, education, age, experience, and other factors, citizenship, other factors which I mentioned in previous slide. So I decided to expand my model and catch the state fixed effects. And as you see, these differences was almost 3%. The gap was shrinked on until 33%. And my full model also catch the time trend. When I run my full model, I identify that the real gender pay gap is 33, almost 34%. And the impact of recession, it is 1.7%. It means that the gap was shrinked after recession in 1.7% on average. It is not just for 2010 year or 2011 year or some exact years. It is on average. And also there was increase in salary for women and men in almost 16%, but for female the increase in salary was faster. That decrease shrink in almost 2%. So I decided to run also Oaxaca decomposition. Oaxaca decomposition, it is a statistical model which identifies the differences between two groups by decomposing this difference on explained and unexplained differences, on explained and unexplained gap. So I run this model for my data, and I identified that overall the difference between men and women wage 53%, and the unexplained gap, it is 15%, which is due just to the gender. And here I show graphically the explanation, and the coefficient for male wage, it is almost 38, and for female it is 31, and the difference, unexplained difference, it is 15%. So this difference will expand, and average difference is 53%. It will expand because the slope of male wage is higher than the slope for female wage. So it was our regression show on average, but if we will look to the fluctuations of this gender pay gap, of this gap during the years, we identify that right after recession the gender pay gap was shrinked in 10%. It means there was high demand for women, for female employees. So, if we will look to the hiring processes, we identify that most male lose their job in financial sector, and there was more demand for female labor force. So while male was losing the job, companies were hiring in a small amount, in a 100,000 new employees, which were female. Okay, it shows that there was high demand for women labor force. Analyzing this and studying other similar papers, I identified that during recession there was high demand for female labor force. And the reasons, as I identify as the reasons, it is less risk appetite of women, and risk management ability, and also women can see beyond the numbers. They can see who are beside this profit, beside these numbers, and they are mostly social oriented. Maybe women are mothers, that's why they are mostly social oriented. And in a companies where CEOs among women, they show mostly high financial performances, increased in innovation, lower employee turnovers, strong financial performances. And one bad news with this gender pay gap, it would cause the glass ceiling. It is invisible barrier for further growth for women. Even men and women have the same experience, education, skills, knowledge, everything's the same, but the salary for female much lower will discourage women for further growth, and by this we lose the half of labor force. We discourage them to achieve more and more. So my recommendation, gender pay gap, we cannot eliminate and eradicate this by ourselves, 1% or 2%. That's why if companies, firms will change their HR policy regarding their hiring processes, career growth, capacity building of employees, and they will change their policies and remuneration system of company. And if we will put attention of public these issues and outcomes which will cause by gender pay gap, and if government will pay attention more to implementing process of acts after establishing for example equal pay gap, it would be much resultative, and we can achieve much more results. One can make a difference, but together we can rock the world. That's why just working on this issue together, we can eradicate, eliminate, or at least shrink, minimize this gap. Thank you for your attention. If there would be any questions, you can write below. I will try to answer. Thank you.